This is the XPS 13 from 2020. It's the 9300, and I have a very special relationship with this product line. It was the very first laptop I reviewed on this channel, like the 2015 XPS 13, and it's also the device that I often recommend to people when they just ask me, hey Dave, what Windows laptop would you recommend? For people that just don't know a lot about computers, they just want like an easy recommendation, I often lead them to this XPS 13 because it's just a really good product line from Dell. It's not super expensive, they improve on it every year, and just most people can enjoy this product quite readily. So I look at this thing critically. I look at this thing through the eyes of someone that would actually want to use this thing as my main computer. Now, they revamped the XPS 13 this year. I didn't expect them to. Last year was already really good, but they completely redid it and they improved on a lot of features, but they actually made a few things less good. But let's get into it. First thing, design and aesthetics. This thing is incredibly nice looking. It's small, it's compact, it's lightweight, but this year I actually went for the black carbon fiber model. So last year I had like the white one. This year I went for like the black finish. There's something about the way that Dell does their carbon fiber that is very unique. It's soft to the touch, it's durable, it's inviting to use. I think a lot of people enjoy the way that the black carbon fiber feels on this device, so I went for it again this year. The white models, they look really nice, but they're not as nice to use because they don't have that soft touch material that the black carbon fiber does. Now on the surface of this device, I'm running a D-brand skin. This is the black matrix. I just do it for the looks, but it does have a degree of protection if you kind of bang your device around. Okay, ports. This year they only include 2 USB ports. There's one USB-C on the left and then one USB-C on the right. That's it. Last year's model had a 3rd USB-C. Now, I can give it a pass with 2. I mean, like there are some devices out there like that 12-inch MacBook that only have a single port, but if you're someone that connects a lot of devices to their laptop, you're gonna have to get some adapters. There's also a headphone jack on the left and an SD card slot or a micro SD card slot on the right. If you'll notice, they're actually missing the light indicator for battery. So they used to have this button you could press to check on battery life, and now it's gone. I don't think people often relied on that button to check on the battery status of their device. It's just something that's existed on so many older XPS 13 devices. It's weird to see it gone. Okay, one thing I did notice on this machine that was very unique or new this year, you can open the device with one hand, and it seems to be something that people wanted. I've personally never found it super important or super valuable to have that feature, but I can see it being useful in certain scenarios, especially if you're holding something with the other hand, you just only have one hand to do it. It's nice. It's more the fact that they spent the time and effort to engineer the hinge so it could be done like that. Like they certainly didn't need to add this feature at all, right? All the XPS 13s in the past, they'd never been able to do this. People still bought them. But it's nice that they did it this year. Now the screen has also been changed. This is now running a 16:10 aspect ratio instead of the more traditional 16:9. It's just a little more vertical space. It's a 13.4-inch screen. This is a really nice aspect ratio for this type of device. I've always been a big fan of 16:10 Ultrabooks. The screen is bright, it's got pretty good color accuracy. It's a really nice screen. It does not, however, have touch sensitivity. There are some configurations that do, but you have to pay quite a bit more to be able to have that feature. The webcam is up top, it's in a good spot again this year, and the 2020 model supports Windows Hello, so you can log into Windows with just your face biometrics. It's really nice. Wonderful screen. Now, if you don't want to use Face ID, you can also use your fingerprint sensor that's at the top of the keyboard. So I guess let's talk about the keyboard. So it's a redesigned keyboard, and I really like it. Now, I'm partial to the layout of the XPS 13s. I've always enjoyed how they've positioned their keys. They've tweaked a couple things. For one, the left and right keys are now full-size keys instead of those half keys from the 2019 model, so you don't hit the page up and page down by mistake. I really like this layout, but I can see how some people won't. If you're someone that uses page up and page down frequently and you were used to the position and you wanted physical dedicated keys, you now lose that. You now have to hit function up, function down, but I love the layout on this thing. I think most people will enjoy it. The keys themselves, they feel awesome. Now, maybe it's because I've used so many bad Ultrabook keyboards in the recent years. These feel wonderful. They're bigger keys than last year's model. They're responsive. The key travel is nice. I think a lot of people will enjoy this keyboard. Okay, the trackpad. This is also slightly bigger this year than it was last year. It's not a huge trackpad. I think it's appropriately sized for a 13-inch Ultrabook. The tracking is good. It's got Windows precision drivers, but the click, it's different this year. It's like a thumpier, quieter sound. Still feels solid. Like if you compare it to last year's model, this is the 2019 one. It's just a louder, sharper click versus the thumpier. Okay, speaking of sound, the speakers on this model. Okay, here's the thing. Over the years, laptop manufacturers have ruined laptop speakers because they always market them with these like fancy names and these fancy brands to make people think that their crappy speakers actually sound good. This year, these are actually good. They're way better than last year's model and way better than the vast majority of Ultrabook speakers out there. And I think it's because of wattage. These are 2-watt speakers instead of your standard like 1 or 1.5 watt speakers. They are not as good as MacBook speakers, but I think that if you care about sound, you won't be disappointed by these. In terms of performance, I think Dell did a really good job considering what's going on here in a thin and light Ultrabook like this. It's running 10th gen Intel chips. These are similar in CPU performance to last year's stuff, but the graphical performance is noticeably better. It's still not great for gaming, right? Even something like Overwatch, not a particularly demanding game, doesn't run all that well. Like it's playable, but it's gonna stutter here and there. If you want to do heavier stuff, it still can't compete with an H series chip from Intel, and I would really like to see an AMD chip in this chassis. That would be awesome, but performance on the whole is quite good. And I actually think the thermal system on this year's model is slightly improved compared to last year's model. So if you take a look at the inside, there's quite a few things that have changed, but even the back panel has been upgraded a little. So this grill here used to be made out of plastic, and it was something that could be easily broken when you're opening the device. It's now part of the machined aluminum bottom panel. So inside we see 2 fans that are in a different position this year than they were in previous years. They're now on the left and right, so you get more even heat dissipation. The Wi-Fi card is on board. You can't replace that, unfortunately. It's a killer Wi-Fi card, which I know it's based on Intel's hardware, but it's got some software stuff you have to finagle with. The RAM is soldered on, can't replace that, but the SSD, thank goodness, is still replaceable. I thought that they would bake these things on board because their newest XPS 13 2-in-1s had them built into the motherboard, but this is still replaceable. The SSD they include is from SK Hynix, but you can easily upgrade that if you want. And if you look on the left and right, you can actually see the antennas. They just have them out in the open on this particular model. Now the battery down here, 52 watt hours, they haven't changed the size, but I'm still getting a comfortable 10 hours on this particular battery. If you get a higher resolution screen, it's probably gonna be less, but 10 hours on the 1080p model without a touchscreen. The other thing I noticed on this device is that the headphone jack assembly is separate from the motherboard. Instead of a jack that's just built into the motherboard, it's this separate assembly that sits inside the bottom panel. And then when you close it up, there's pogo pins that connect it to the motherboard. And I don't know why they did it like this. Maybe it was like a space saving thing, but I've never seen anything like this. I thought I would just show it to you guys because it's pretty cool. Okay, I want to close this discussion off with the pricing and the configurations of this new XPS 13. So on the website, they have the cheap model starting at $999. But that thing has 4 gigs of RAM. And I've said this before in previous videos, I gotta say it again. You should not sell a premium device like this, an XPS 13, with only 4 gigs of RAM. It doesn't make sense. It's disrespectful to the consumer to have something like that available on your website. Like when every other manufacturer out there is putting 8 gigs of RAM as a minimum in their base models, don't sell a 4 gig one. Like when phones, like you can buy a 2020 smartphone with 8 gigs of RAM for $250. What is this 4 gig model doing? It doesn't make sense. Anyways, aside from that weird RAM configuration on their website, I really feel like they did a really good job on this year's XPS 13. They did a whole bunch of improvements. It is a really nice looking machine, and I really recommend it for anyone that's interested in a device that does all the Ultrabook stuff. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. See you guys next time.